That's amazing. I love that. And thank you so much for inviting me to join you.
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I feel like this just kind of escalated because I saw your stuff on Facebook and I was like, I've never heard of this Renee. I was like, I could learn some stuff from her. I wonder if she'd be open to a video chat just to meet. So that was my only intention. I love your energy and I wanted to meet you and see what you're doing. And then it just became like this talk. And then you told Jennifer, and then Jennifer's like, yeah, Thea's doing a podcast. And I was like,
oh no.
Okay.
Okay. So now you're doing a podcast.
So now I'm doing a podcast. Okay. Well, that's kind of how the energy goes, right? Yeah. Now all of a sudden it's a podcast. So welcome to my first podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll start right at the beginning. How did you learn about Quantum Touch?
Okay, great. I'll introduce myself. So my name is Renee Morris, and I don't remember when I was trying to pinpoint, there must be some moment, life-changing moment when I first heard about it. But no, I don't actually remember the moment. I have always had kind of a thirst for the unusual and definitely things that are related to health and well-being. I do remember some of the first material that I saw having to do with Quantum Touch was talks by Richard Gordon, and he's a very compelling and dynamic speaker. So I have no doubt that stuck in my mind. I didn't do anything about it right away, but it was something that planted a seed. Then at some point, I started looking up workshops. The time wasn't right for me to take a workshop, and then eventually it was. And I was able to take a workshop with an amazing practitioner to start, which was my first real exposure to Quantum Touch. Prior to signing up for, that's Aileen McKenna, and based out of Ottawa, Canada. And so prior to taking that workshop, I actually went to see her to have a Quantum Touch session because I wanted the experience for myself. And if I remember right, the session was supposed to be about an hour or an hour and a half. And I was there over 4 hours because she was so generous with her time in talking about Quantum Touch, and a very, very passionate and knowledgeable lady. So that was super motivating for me. And without a doubt, it was something that I wanted to pursue. I feel like right away, it was a type of modality that inherently felt right to me. It made sense. It was so simple, but the way it's explained to me, it just seemed obvious and natural. And something that everybody should be doing. So that's when I decided to pursue the workshops to become a practitioner.
Very cool. So what year was that?
So that was only last year. So halfway through the year. So I'm new. I'm very, very new. And I was certified February of this year.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So did you have an awareness to energy prior to taking the workshops, or did the workshops help develop that, or how did that come about for you?
Yeah, great question. When I think about it now, I feel like I've been doing energy work naturally my whole life without actually knowing what it was, and thinking that, I'm just different, or I have a different perspective than other people, or maybe I have a keen intuition about things. So energy work has really allowed me to put a name to it and understand that part of myself better. But otherwise, I'm not certified in other types of energy work modalities. So I wasn't at all, say, working in the wellness industry. For the last 15 years, I had my own business as an artisan entrepreneur. So completely unrelated to, say, health and wellness. But I did have a very pivotal experience with an energy worker about 3 or 4 years ago now. And I believe that also planted a seed, and it was life-changing for me in having to do with a certain condition that I was experiencing at that time. So I was really thinking to myself, wow, this is amazing. And I thought at that time, how lucky for him to have that gift. And now I look at it differently. I see that everybody has a natural capacity to do this work. It might look different for some than for others, but it's a part of ourselves that maybe we've long forgotten or just still undiscovered, but in the process of discovering, and that they actually do it naturally without even knowing what it is. Just like when a kid falls down and scratches his knee, his immediate reaction, put his hand on it, other people put their hand on it, or when, a mom kisses their child all better, that type of thing plays on the same principles as what we learn in Quantum Touch.
Yeah, that's how I kind of was opened up to it too. I had my first son, and then I had my second, and I kept thinking, I worked in the health field, and I just kept thinking there has to be something more. Like there's something missing, and I just couldn't figure it out. And then I remember thinking, I'm like, I don't want to go back to doing what I'm doing because I don't feel like that is what I'm meant to do. I feel like there's more. And then I just kept thinking, like, I want to help people. How can I help people? Then I came across Richard's video on Quantum Touch, and I was like, this has got to be it. And then after taking the first workshop, I was really amazed because, yeah, when you have your newborn baby, and I mean, research is coming out now on skin to skin and just how powerful that is for both the mom and the baby. But really, when you think about it, you're doing all that energy work. You're holding your baby. You have that natural love for them, right? You're breathing. You're present with them. You're having that intention of like you love them and you want so much for their future, right? And you want to care for them. And it's like all the components of Quantum Touch are there. And that's what I love about Quantum Touch. Like it really is natural. But then when you take the workshops and you learn it, it's like you learn the tips and tricks to like up it. Right?
And to do it more consciously, something that's natural, understand how to steer it and do it purposefully. Exactly. I can imagine there are constant kind of light bulb moments as a mom who also does Quantum Touch and the parallels in between. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think I'm the same with you. I had no energy background whatsoever when I took my first workshop. Like I didn't know what a chakra was. I didn't know anything, and I was just amazed, but because some of it just felt so natural, and I feel like it could explain past things about like just understandings or thoughts that you have. It's like those intuitive hits, and you're like, oh, now it makes sense. It's really
And how long have you been a practitioner for? I know you're an instructor as well.
Yeah. So I took my first class in 2018. And then I became a practitioner in 2019. And then that was when my husband and I decided, you know what, we need to make some big changes here, like big changes. So he quit his job, started a new career. I was pregnant with our third at that point. And then my plan was I wasn't going to go back after my mat leave, and I was going to pursue Quantum Touch full time. So we both decided we were going to switch. And then in that, we ended up doing a relocation move mid-pandemic. So we moved away from friends and family. So that was, that was a challenge in itself. But now here we are. And then when was it? It was 2021. I decided, no, this is real. And I could give a lot of value to my clients, but I realized how like, this is a life skill. This isn't just you come to me and I will provide you with what you need to be healed. Like I think there's value in that. I think we need to come together to heal, but I think people need to know that they can do it themselves, that they don't need me. Like I will teach them these steps, but like they can do it. So that's when I was like, no, I want to become an instructor because I think that would give more value to people and that would be more empowering. I just became an instructor a few months ago. I'm really excited to teach and to share it with others.
Yeah, I love what you said about not only, of course, providing a service to clients who come and want the service, but also letting it be known that it's something that is natural and that people can do for themselves. Mm-hmm. And for me is that I do practice it all the time, almost every day on myself. And actually I would say every day in different durations, but very often I do sessions of 30, 60 minutes on myself because of what it does for me and how it benefits my life. And in being that example, the living example of the work, then I feel that will be inspiring to other people as well to say, oh, well, I could do that too, because I want to be able to calm my nervous system down. You know, if I'm having stress or anxiety, I want to be able to pursue certain goals and with a clear mind. Or also for me, I find Quantum Touch really helps me sleep if ever I have difficulty sleeping. So there's so many ways that it can be applied in basically any circumstance in your life.
Yeah, I use it as a tool. That's how I think about it. So when I'm getting stressed in the moment, it's like when I get stressed or triggered, it's like then it clicks and I'm like, okay, Thea, just take a breath, run some energy, set your intention. Okay. So I feel like that's how I use it in the moment, is how I seem to benefit it the most. But I think the biggest thing it's taught me is to have a clear intention. And it's taught me just how important that clear intention is, because it's so easy to get scared and then not have a clear intention because you know it's going to work out, or you're scared it's not going to work out, right? Like, I think that's where I start to hold myself back, or I'm becoming aware of. And I think that's why I don't run energy on myself every morning. Like, and it probably doesn't make any sense. I can have a session with a client and it's amazing. But yeah, that moment where I'm like, I'm going to do it for myself. And I'm like, I'm going to sleep in. Why do I do that?
Yeah, well, and as you know, when you're working with clients, it's benefiting you as well. So you're getting that, even though it's under the header of doing it for somebody else, but you're still on the receiving end of the energy as well, which is amazing.
Yeah,
I always feel great after my client sessions. Really does a lot for me. I feel like often I benefit as much as they do. So I like that part.
Well, and that's another reason why I wanted to become an instructor, because I love the high you feel afterwards. I feel like you always meet such great people at the workshops, and then you're just running so much energy in the workshop and receiving so much energy, and you just feel like it's just amazing. And that feeling, I think that's the other thing. It's like, I can't describe it, but it's a feeling. And once you feel it, you know. And I just love that feeling. And I want that feeling to be my daily life. I do. So I want to do more of this work because it benefits me and I love it. But it's like, I want to help other people and show other people it's possible for them too.
Yeah, so to me, it sounds like giving workshops are an amazing way for you to do all of that. And I find it, even, I'm not an instructor, but even just talking about the material, and in my sessions, I rediscover the material as well. I'm constantly learning more or things that I'd forgotten. And I can imagine the same with teaching as well. I've taught in other domains before, and it's always in teaching, you're learning too. So it just gives you a deeper understanding of the work, which is another added benefit.
Mm-hmm. And actually, so I was looking on your website and you had one line there that I just loved. So I'm going to read it and then you can kind of talk about what that means. You wrote, I think this was after a client books a session with you. You wrote, my clients tend to start feeling lit up right after booking because the process is already engaged and the energetic body understands the intention that has been set. It's beautiful.
Exactly. That was a real moment of inspiration when I first recognized that, because I had noticed that some of my clients, after booking, it seemed like things were already happening for them. Also, I started receiving information as soon as I received the booking, receiving SecondSight information, also known as, say, extended senses, or a type of clairvoyance that I have. I started receiving that information as soon as I received the booking. So I realized very quickly there's a powerful process that is being engaged as soon as a person not only sets the intention, but makes the commitment of the session. And as we learn in Quantum Touch, it's a difficult concept to explain and to grasp, but the energy is not bound by space or time. So it doesn't have to wait until the moment the session starts for the work to be in progress. It actually happens as soon as the person makes the commitment and sets the intention. to me, that's so exciting. And it's an amazing testimony to the work itself.
Yeah, I was saying that too. It's the power of commitment. And I think it's that power of investing in yourself. I think it says so much about self-love. Like, I love myself so much that I am going to take this money and I am going to use it for my good. And I'm going to take this time, because it's not just money, it's your time. And I'm going to use this for my good. This is going to help me. And I think there's so much power in investing in yourself and making that commitment. And I think
exactly.
that is where we do need each other in this process, because we'll hold each other accountable. Like, I think that's another reason why I don't run energy on myself every morning, because I'm the one holding myself accountable. Because if I had to pay for a half-hour session every morning, like, I'm going to show up for that, right? We seem to have this value for money and value for time when we place it outside of ourselves. But I mean, that's what a client does when they book. They're investing in them.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then matching that with that intention that this is going to work, right? Having that positive intent is so important.
I agree. And then they are immediately supported in that way. And it's funny that we keep going back to about the daily work. And there have been times, I mean, I'm still very new to it, but sort of little periods where I wasn't working on myself regularly because life gets in the way and you get busy and other things happen. I find that lately, now that I've been making a more conscious effort at the development of the business aspect, I'm a lot more committed to working on myself on a daily or almost daily basis, because what I've found is I get so much random inspirations when I'm doing the work. It's uncanny. Like, I'll come up with an idea. So it's a very selfish reason, selfish in a good way. And because I'm benefiting from it, but I come up with like these just amazing points of inspiration of, you know, either posts to make or offerings that I can provide in my business, or just the direction that I'm going to take. And I find that also after the other day, for example, I just, you know, when you wake up on the wrong side of the bed and all my negative thoughts are coming out, everything was wrong. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do quantum touch until I had the time, until I feel better. So I think it was a long session. It was close to an hour and a half, I think, until I could feel the change in my body. And that very day, in the afternoon, I received an offer to be featured in an online magazine. I had a new client booking, and there was one other thing, I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was business related. I really felt like I was being rewarded in a way for doing the work on myself and putting out a different vibration, a vibration that was positive, that where I'm not trying to control the outcome. I can put out an intention, but I'm not clinging to any aspect where I'm going to be disappointed if it doesn't happen, and then things happen. So it was almost like it shifted the whole day for me, which was amazing to experience. And also another example of how powerful the work can be, and in a really diverse way. People use it for, say, physical aspects, but it can be used for other things, you know, mental, emotional, and creating your life moving forward, which is how I'm trying to use it now for myself, and how you want to live and what you want that to look like without being controlled by the limiting thoughts and fears as well.
Well, like what you said there was, so I'm going through the manual to like get ready to teach. And the one line, this is the other thing that gets me. Like, I've done the course a number of times, and as I'm going through the manual, there's still new stuff that's popping up. And the one new line that really soaked in this week was what happens in a session when all of a sudden the pain flares up. And it's like, it's your body ready to accept and move all of that out, right? To really move through it. And then Richard's line was celebrate it. And I thought, how ironic is that? Like, your pain flares up, it gets so much worse, and Richard's like, celebrate it. But it's so true. It's like your body's saying, yes, like, let's let it go. And it's like, once you change the perspective on that, I was like, that's very powerful. When you change the thought that the symptom isn't the issue, the symptom is the communication that the body's ready to heal. So celebrate it. Isn't that cool?
That's amazing. And yeah, like you said, it feels counterintuitive, and it is what you need to do to get through it, to work through it, and to get on the next step for a resolution in healing in any issue that you have. And usually you have that kind of turning point, that expression, it's always darkest before the dawn. You do get to this point in life in certain circumstances where it's like a point of despair or a point of crisis before you get to the healing of it. So how that can be managed and approached to in a different way, and actually be celebrated and seen as something good that is communicating something to you. Exactly. Yeah, I love that.
Like along that line, another thing Richard always says is the symptom is your body communicating to you and showing you how you can love yourself more.
Which of course, in those moments, the last thing, I mean, you're not usually feeling, you know, full of self-love, but yeah, it's changing the programming towards the communication information that you're getting from your physical experience.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, tell me a bit more about your second sight. You know, I started noticing that too. First, I noticed I would get pains in my body, or I would notice something. And that was when I knew how to send to the client. Like all of a sudden, like my shoulder would get sore, and then be like, okay, I'm going to send to their shoulder. And then all of a sudden that pain goes away. And then it's like my side, and I would send there. And then it's like all of a sudden, like random thoughts would come up, because I would be like, I see a girl laughing, or different images or themes would pop up. So I think it's similar to what you mean by your second sight.
Exactly. So the second sight is the term that I use. I know that other people use different kinds of terms, but I find that it's a nice term that doesn't have, say, a lot of baggage associated with a lot of connotation. It's a form of perception that goes beyond the five senses that we're used to using that's how we experience the world. When I took my first workshop in Quantum Touch, right away, I started receiving this second sight information. For some people, it can come in different forms, from my understanding. For myself, often comes in images, storylines even, but it can be other things too, colors, and very metaphorical. They generally are not literal, they're metaphorical. And it can also include, say, beings, so which is kind of fun and a little bit weird to talk about. I think that everybody has the natural capacity, if they want to develop it, that they can, but that it'll look different. From my understanding, some people can receive, say, smells or sounds, which are not things that I have experience with. I think Quantum Touch has allowed me to develop that skill, and it's also helped in the development of that skill. But I also realize this is something that I've had probably my whole life. And every once in a while, I'll get a memory of experience where something like this happened, where I received extra sensory information, and that it helped me with a circumstance. So it's amazing to be able to put a name to that, especially for people who do experience that, say, naturally without cultivating it as a kid, to put a name and a shape to it, so that it doesn't feel so weird. You know?
Exactly. And I think it's important to talk about, because it is kind of unsettling the first time you notice it. I was doing a session on a little boy, and I was like, I don't know how to say this, but I feel like his grandpa is here. Like his grandpa had passed, and I've never channeled or done or anything. And I was like, and I thought he was there, and then I was like, no, I'm going crazy. And I was like, no, maybe not. And then I was like, okay, well, give me a word or a sign that I can give to this family to say that, yes, I connected to you. And he said, Fletcher. And I was like, okay. So then I tell the parents, I was like, I think the grandfather was here. He said the word Fletcher. And then it turns out that that is a tie to the family farm. I guess he used to go looking for arrowheads, and there's a whole bunch of other like symbology in that. And I didn't even know what a Fletcher was. So I thought that was pretty powerful. But then very taken aback. But then I was glad I said something, because now I look back and I'm like, all my other thoughts, it's like, it makes you think about like, what are those thoughts? And right. And then it's like using discernment with it. And It's interesting.
I agree. And I feel like I'm learning how to navigate it. At the beginning, I didn't want to share that information with people. I had a resistance to it. And then I would share it with kind of close friends and family who I was practicing quantum touch on. And then what I discovered is that often it became kind of a focal point of the session, which I didn't like at all, because I was like, oh, let's get through the energy work, and then because they want to hear about what I saw or whatever. And I didn't like that, because for me the energy work is so important. But over the months, I've come to terms with it. And actually, a girl who was in one of my workshops, and we would do energy sessions on each other to help towards our practice hours. So we would do that weekly. I would talk it out with her, and I knew that she really appreciated the SecondSight feedback, and she also was able to offer that to me. And so I was telling her about my dilemma, like, do I offer it? Because it's not, I didn't even know what to call it. What is it? And she told me that she felt like I would be doing myself and my clients a disservice in not offering it. So that was a turning point for me. And since then, I've really been conscious to learn how to navigate it. I'm very sensitive about, if there's an energy that comes in that I feel is related personally to the person, I'm still learning how to present that, because it could be something that is extremely emotional in a good way or a negative way. And I just want to be careful and conscious and purposeful about how that's presented. It's not for me to interpret. You can let me know what resonates with you, and it always resonates, which is amazing.
It kind of fits in with what we learn with Quantum Touch, because near the end of the level 1 workshop, we learn to play with our imagination. And you have to think, where did that energy come from? And I'm always tweaking or changing the way I run my sessions with my clients. And lately I've been narrating my intentions as I do the energy session, which I think is really cool, because I get those insights, like what you're talking about, the SecondSight, but I treat that as like my imagination that's bringing in the energy. So if all of a sudden I see a little girl splashing in a puddle, then I'll just tell my client, I'm bringing in that energy of a little girl splashing in a puddle. Like, there's a little girl there, and it's like that energy of that is going to come in now. And like, I bring in all of those vibrations, and I find that really helps them, and it always seems to resonate with them. And it could be something random. Like, sometimes it's like, I'm bringing in the sound of a helicopter, and it's almost like enough to disrupt whatever their thought pattern was. And then I remind them, like, just whatever you were thinking or feeling, just notice your body's releasing it, and just allow that sound to like dismantle it or whatever you need to do with it. So I feel like that it is using quantum touch still. It's just, I think we're all just learning how to use it to communicate, because it's all a feeling. Like, it's energy. I'm like, we're doing the energy a disservice by trying to describe it, because you just need to feel it. But yeah, I think that's just part of understanding the energy.
I agree. And I love the way that you put it with the imagination part, and that it's energy that you're receiving in, say, a different way through an image that is coming into the session as well. That I love. I will definitely take inspiration from that.
And I think the more I do this work and I work with clients, and it's like you become more aware, right? You notice your surroundings. I was doing a group energy session, and I'm in my office, and my husband was with the kids. I have 3 young kids, and all of a sudden, seemingly out of nowhere, my 7-year-old just started screaming, just having a full fit. And in my mind, I'm like, what is going on? Like, I hope they're okay. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to add him into this group energy, and I'm just going to send it to everybody. So then I just told everyone, I'm like, I'm going to send an energy to your 7-year-old self. And that resonated with so many people. And I think that shocked me, because then all of a sudden my 7, like, he was quiet, like I didn't hear anything more. So it was weird, because that's not like him at all. And then later I asked my husband, I was like, is everything okay with them? And my husband was like, I don't know what happened. He's like, it was all of a sudden like he acted up, and then it was done. And I was just
wow,
like, weird. But then I couldn't believe how much that resonated with my clients afterwards. And then I was just like, then I was blown away. I'm like, I need to process this. But I think it's really just noticing what's happening around you, or where my attention goes. I'm like, maybe my attention's not wandering like I think it's wandering. Maybe it's showing me what I need to bring back to the client, right?
Yeah. I love that. That's it. And it's sometimes just when we think we know how it works, it's not really like that. And it's not for us to know exactly how it works. So no, I love that story and the way that you reframed it, because otherwise it could have created a lot of resistance, which would have affected what you were doing in the moment. But instead you took it as a cue and as part of the process. And obviously it was something that your clients resonated with, but that otherwise you might not have thought up consciously to do, which is amazing. Yeah.
And then if you take that thought one step further, it's like, okay, say that was a trigger. I could have gotten really upset. I could have been like, don't you guys realize I'm working? Like, don't you guys realize this is really important, right? Like I could have gotten mad, but instead I was like, it got my attention and I was like, I'm just going to send it love. And then it worked out so beautifully. And then I'm like, okay, so not that I feel like no one wants to admit they get triggered, but it's like, okay, so maybe that trigger is for my good, right? When I feel triggered, like that's when I take my moment and I just, and maybe my reaction is not the best reaction in the beginning. And then I take a step back and I'm like, okay, like, what is this trying to tell me? And it's so interesting. So that's kind of like what I'm playing with too, trying to like be aware of that and see what that means.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. And it helps you in your life, in your personal life, how to navigate situations as well. And just to be conscious, because I know it's true. Nobody wants to go into that feeling or acknowledge the trigger. But if you look at the trigger as some communicating something to you, then you can transform it into something that you would never have expected could have happened. It can be transformational in a very creative way beyond what we would have thought with our conscious mind, which is amazing. To me, that's just fire, because we don't know what we are capable of, possibilities there are out there, and we're constantly limiting ourselves without even knowing. To me, it's very exciting because of the applications across all aspects of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's what I love about this work. I really do. I feel so great when I do this work. And I think it's just because it's like learning the foundations to living. Really.
Which I mean, you say that you said that so casually, but that's amazing. It's huge. And I relate entirely. I go from, people will often ask me, well, what is quantum touch? And I find myself playing with different ways of explaining it, but it goes from, something like, oh, it can help you feel good, to it can transform your entire foundation of your life. So that's a big difference, but it's very true.
This has been fun. Time's just flying.
It's been so fun. Thank you so much.
Do you have like a story that stands out maybe to share?
Sure. Something that I've found has been very, very common, which I think is important to talk about, having to do with the distance sessions. When I first started learning quantum touch, I really had a preconceived idea about the distance work. I did a lot of my practice hours via distance, and the Quantum Touch organization has a fairly large Facebook page online. And so I decided it would be really good for me. I really want people who have no connection to me, who aren't going to tell me, oh yeah, I feel great, if they don't feel great. Even better if it is kind of completely anonymous. So I put a post in the Quantum Touch Facebook group asking for people who would be interested in doing a session with me. So I set it up so that it would be done through Messenger. So I'm not hearing the sound of their voice. I'm not seeing their face either. And so I thought this is going to be a really interesting test, because I really don't have any cues to pick up anything on, and I was absolutely shocked at how powerful those sessions could be. especially in an emotional way. I had a lot of clients who were across time zones. In Europe, I had no previous communication with them prior to setting up the session, and who shifted things for themselves with me as a facilitator in a dramatic way. People who would have emotional releases during the session, and they would know exactly what it was about, what it related to, say, in their life. And here I was just in my place where I live doing the energy work. So for me, that really gave me a lot of confidence in the distance sessions. Now, I mean, I do offer sessions in that kind of format. I also offer sessions where you can see each other as well. And I find it's interesting. Some people do select just Messenger because maybe they don't want that personal connection, but they're interested in the service and the work. For me, it was transformative as a practitioner because here I was getting this feedback from people who were complete strangers who had no reason to tell me anything otherwise, and it blew my mind. So
it's incredible. It blows my mind every single time, and I'm like, I should get used to this, but I don't. It feels so cool. Kind of like what you said, I had this gentleman from Ireland who found me, and how he found me on the internet, I have no idea, because he had no internet banking. He had nothing else on the internet. Like, the only way he could pay me was by literally sending me euros in the mail. So it took months to actually get this all set up. And like, I thought this was a weird scammer. I don't know. I believed in him. Like, my husband thought, like, Lily, and I was like, no, it feels right. Like, I didn't know this gentleman, and it helped his back, and he could go garden again. And I was like, that's really powerful.
Amazing.
He was one of my first clients, and I think he'll probably always stick with me because it was just such a unique story about how, like, I actually got like euro bills in the mail. And then I was like, how did you find me on the internet if you don't do any banking or anything else on the internet? But the energy finds a way. But yeah, he was able to garden again after the session. So that's really good.
That is amazing. And I find it interesting, I'm sure you do as well, how the work brings people together. So, you know, he probably had many other options, or like local energy workers or in his country, but he was very compelled to you. And I find the same thing in clients that come to me. Sometimes I don't know, say, how they found out about me. They find me online, but there's something telling them I'm the right one for them. And it always is the case that working together, that we're able to get the job done in shifting the energy. So I find that's a really powerful and fascinating aspect too, because, you know, we could all do the same work, but we're all bringing our own particular, say, flavor and skills to it. So that might resonate more with one person and less with another person, but the work seems to bring you together with the right people, which is amazing.
Yeah. It's so cool. Awesome. Cool. So if people want to learn more about you, where can they get your information?
So I have a website, which is oceanicaenergy.com. So OCEANICA energy.com. You can also find me on social media. I have a Facebook page as well as Instagram. I also have a TikTok that I'm starting. Thank you to you for inviting me to do this. I set the intention that tonight's video chat with you would be a turning point for me in my commitment to doing video content. So that is how people can find me. All my services that I currently offer are listed on the website. It connects to a booking page, so people can book directly that way. Or you can also send me an email at oceanicaenergy@gmail.com. So,
perfect. And I'll list that all in the comments so that people can easily find that too.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to meet you.
I love how this was just, I wanted to meet you, and then it just became something more. But I think that's just the way the energy goes, right?
And now you have a podcast.
I think if I had the idea to do a podcast, I would have been like, you can't do a podcast, right? Let all that self-talk come in. So no,
exactly.
It just keeps getting better, right? That's my husband and I's new line. You know how people always say, and I mean, we would say it too, like, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? So now we say, how could it get any better?
Okay.
How could it get any better? Just
yeah,
just watch.
That's great.
You'll see how it got better.
I love that. And it immediately shifts the energy just by framing it differently like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So thanks so much, Renee, for meeting with me. This was lovely. And good luck with your business. And I hope that the clients that are meant to find you will find you. And I can't wait to chat again.
Thank you so much, Thea. It's been a pleasure to meet you and to talk to you. And I'm so thankful to have had this opportunity and that we were brought together for this moment. So thank you so much.
Perfect.